Hello, everyone. I am Krandall Brantley for Buckeyes Daily. The initial CFP rankings dropped, and your Buckeyes are the number one ranked team in the country. No surprise there, but I am surprised that the AP and the CFP have the same top five. I can't recall a time in the past 10 years of this playoff where the initial rankings are like drastically different, at least different with the top five seeds. So that was something different. But as far as OSU being number one, that was expected. And it's kind of weird. Like OSU's number one, they're not even like super hyped about it. They're just like, okay, we're focused on ourselves and like improving to get better for the next week and the game, the Big Ten title, and the playoff. And so um, that is a great sign for OSU. A lot different than a couple years ago when they had the one seed, and it was basically like by default, kind of. They had their big win in South Bend that year on the last second play, but teams like Georgia and Michigan were undefeated, but didn't have any marquee wins at that time. And there were flaws in that team, especially on offense, and that got exposed later on. But I'm not seeing, I think it's a totally different story with this one seed compared to 2023. But moving on for the rankings, number two is Indiana, and I think that was well deserved. This showed that the committee really valued their win against Oregon on the road in Autzen, and they've been blowing teams out. And so for them to be over A&M at this point shows that the committee, they actually see them um, over all these SEC teams. And Kirk Cernetti's been talking his stuff about everything with the SEC playing less games and how they need to blow teams out to move to a point. And look at them right now at the number two seed. And it shows that the winner of the potential Ohio State Indiana game in the Big Ten title will get the one seed, regardless of what happens with the SEC and A&M at number three. A&M with remaining schedule, they have Missouri this weekend. Could be a trap game. I think A&M will win that one. But the toughest opponent the rest of the season is at Texas at the end of the season. And even with that win, Texas is not in the top 10 right now. They have favorable ranking, but that will not be enough to jump a Big Ten champ. OSU's already beat Texas, and if Indiana goes undefeated at the Big Ten title, that's not going to allow A&M to jump them. So clear message by the committee there. And you got the SEC, the next three spots, Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss. That just played out. Bama beat Georgia head-to-head. Georgia beat Ole Miss head-to-head. There's going to be a lot of chaos from 4 to 9 for the rest of this month. All the SEC teams will have to play, and then you have the Big 12 with Texas Tech and BYU. There's going to be some losses. They play head-to-head, I think, this weekend, which could allow teams like Notre Dame or Texas possibly to move up if they were to continue winning games. More on those teams later. And then you have this surprise of the night as Oregon. They are number 6 in the AP poll, dropped to number 9 this initial college football ranking. A big part of that is that their win in the whiteout at Penn State has dropped in value significantly in this past month, with Penn State not even winning any conference games so far. And they're a very talented team. They don't have the marquee win, and then their big stage game day, going to town, they lost by double digits to Indiana. So I think that is something for Oregon to consider. And if they lose again, they could possibly be a 12 seed or might not make the playoff, or they have some decent games left. They still play At Washington, they still play at Iowa. Iowa could win that game, and then they still have USC coming to town. So if they were to win out, they'd miss out on the Big Ten title, the way things are going, but they could still get a top 5 or 6 seed, depending on what happens in the rest of the conference play. And BYU at 7, I don't have any issue with that. I don't think that they'd match up head to head with SEC teams above them. And so we get to the main winner of the night of these rankings, and that's Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame is in a good situation right now. And my boy, shout out Cole, he's pretty excited about where Notre Dame is at right now with the 10 seed. They have 2 losses, but the committee put them at the highest seed. All these 2-loss teams from like 10 to 20 or so, and it just shows that they value it. They had a heartbreaking loss in their home opener to A&M, and then their season opener at Miami. That was a close loss, but Miami this peaks in September and October, and they fall off every year. And not Notre Dame's fault that they lost to SMU last weekend. Notre Dame's been playing well. I know USC could not handle them a couple weeks ago in that rainy game. Jeremiah Love, the best tailback in the country, and they're rolling right now. And I mentioned Notre Dame because the way things are going, if they keep winning, they'd probably get like a 7 or 6 seed and get a home game, and they wouldn't get that 8 seed. I say this because I believe out of all the teams from 7 or below, out of all of them, I would not want OSU to play Notre Dame in that quarterfinals matchup. I know, like a 1-8 game out of all those teams. Like, why? Notre Dame would be on 11-game win streak heading to that game. They have Jeremiah Love, the best tailback in the country, and Ohio State would be coming off like a month without any games going that matchup. Think of last year in Oregon, and all the teams with buys, they were one and done. They lost in the quarterfinals, and so now I wouldn't want to play a super confident Notre Dame game in that first playoff game. But I'll say this: I'm not worried about Notre Dame in the semifinal matchup or a natty. But if it came down to the quarterfinals, based off of them having the momentum and OSU not playing for a month, that's a team I would not want to face in that matchup. And so I basically talk about the potential quarterfinal matchups. Ohio right now, it could be, if the playoffs started now, we could get an Ohio State Oregon quarterfinals game. That'd be dope. Oregon will be the 9 seed, play Texas Tech. Winner of that game plays Ohio State. With Ohio State being the 1 seed, I highly doubt they would want to go to Pasadena with all the Oregon fans being close by. So that's kind of weird. They'd pick like, I don't know, Atlanta probably to force Oregon to drive by. It wouldn't be a home game for OSU, but it would force Oregon to travel, and I'd imagine that OSU fans would pack the stadium, and that would be home advantage for Ohio State if that were to happen. Another potential matchup, I know Notre Dame is the 10 seed right now, but they kept moving up with the chaos and the SEC and the Big 12. You could get them going to a 7 or 6 seed and play a 2 or 3 seed Indiana. That needs to happen. Like, that would be an amazing quarterfinals matchup. You get Indiana, Indy, the in-state rivalry, Kirk Cinetti talking his trash, and Marcus Freeman. That would be must-see TV. And unfortunately, we're not going to get Brian Kelly going back to Notre Dame for that matchup we were talking about earlier in the season. LSU fell off, and Brian Kelly is no longer with LSU, but hey, we can get Notre Dame, Indiana. That would be a nice quarterfinals matchup, in my opinion. Okay. For Ohio State and their offensive line, had some injuries. I know Tegra Shabola, he went down on the that fourth down conversion at the end of the game before taking a knee. You're just like, all right, got the first down, and then you see him on the ground. You're like, come on, that's not serious. Come on, the game's over. He was able to walk off, but even in that same drive earlier, you had Luke Montgomery. He went down in that drive, and earlier in the game, Joshua Padilla, he went down with an injury, and from what I've heard, I've heard that it's not they're minor injuries. Nothing seems to be long term. I know Coach Day said that two of these guys are supposed to be back in practice tomorrow, but one of them is still like day to day, and they're trying to do more evaluations with that. That's a cause for concern. I know OSU is still trying to improve, be more consistent with run blocking and getting the run game going. I know Bo Jackson had that 50-yard run, but they want to, and they're pretty good with one of the short yardage situations. It's like 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, they get it done. But like overall, they'd want to mesh better with the run game. So with these injuries, and not just the injuries that it's concerns, also trying to gel more with the last month because they're going to be tested like hell when they go to Ann Arbor. That will be major. If you can't get the run game going, now it's back being one-dimensional, and we've seen that the past 4 years. And so hopefully these guys can recover and speedy recovery for them to be ready for this late stretch of this season. Okay, Purdue week. They're going to West Lafayette, and Purdue is on a 15-game losing streak in the Big Ten. Let me see. How many losses they had? 15 consecutive Big Ten losses. That's not a good sign for Purdue. No Max Clare, he's now a Buckeye. No Dylan Thieneman, he's at Oregon. And they got first-year head coach Barry Odom. Now he was 11-3 over at UNLV, and now he's a first-year head coach of Purdue. It's not going so well as expected. They have a lot to turn around at Purdue, and they have competed in some games at home. Like they competed with USC, they competed with Illinois. Those are two ranked teams that they competed with at home, and then even last weekend when they lost to Michigan by 5 up in Ann Arbor. But still, I don't see this being a good matchup. For instance, their star running back, Devin McCoby, he is out for the season with an ankle injury. That's very tough loss for them. They're already limited. Their quarterback, Ryan Brown, he is 15th out of all the Big Ten teams, 18. He's ranked 15th in total QBR in the Big Ten at, what is this, 55.9. Compare that to Dorian Sayan with an 88.4 QBR. And major mismatch there, and I just don't see this game being competitive at all. I know right now it's a 28.5 spread for the Buckeyes, so I don't see any West Lafayette magic this year. None of the upset talk from previous years when OSU goes here. I don't see the offense struggling and all the crowd chants boil up and all that. Boil up. Boil up. I don't see any of that happening. None of that. I see OSU just blowing them out, and this game should be over at halftime. All right. Go Bucks.